Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Sight. So last time, we played through Shogo's entire storyline, as far as I know, because I didn't know we're gonna be playing other characters, and now the fact that we can actually branch off, like Shogo right here, who's to say he may not branch off even more in the future, but we'll see what happens. So now we got three options, and today I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with Shigima, because I want to know, I want to see people burn. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Not dreams. When the son of Harue Shigima was kidnapped, a botched investigation by the police resulted in a child's murder. 1 year later, Haru has hired a private investigator to help resolve the unsettled case. But at night, while speaking to the detective at her home, something strange suddenly appears.
May those who mock fire perish in flame. Kill them. Kill them. The flame bearers. Kill them all.
Let's see. Power Curstone, the haunting clappers. You can use it to kill those with fire or a fire starting device on the person. Okay, so yeah, we found that out last time, very, very harshly, that I need to throw away the lighter, which I got lucky because I did not mean to. I did not mean to go in the item list and accidentally press it. A murderous impulse seeps into my soul like thick black tar.
Now, get them. You hear it, curse bearer? You who strongly desires the rights, kill them.
Back with me, ma'am? Did we pass out? Can't say I understand what just happened, but it certainly seems to have put you in a good mood. This might be the first time I've ever seen you really smile. Oh, yeah, she's got like a little creepy smile. Sweet dreams. Alright, so let's see. Housewife, the haunting clappers. Haru is a housewife who resides in a manor near Shimoku Bridge. Her 11-year-old son, Suichi, was kidnapped and murdered about a year ago. The death was the result of a mistake on the part of the detectives assigned to the case. A mistake which enraged the kidnapper and had him cut off all contact with the police, leaving no room for negotiation. Oh, I know what that mistake was. The incident was covered up and Suichi's killer remains at large, leading the aggrieved Haru to call on the services of private investigator Richard Kai to uncover the truth. The Shigima family came from a line of samurai who built their residence in Honjo during the Edo period. They assumed important positions in the police force following the Meiji Revolution, thereby protecting their family's elevated status. Even today, many in the Shigima line work as police bureaucrats and senior police officers. Haru's father sits in the upper echelons of the National Police Agency, and her husband, adopted into the Shigima clan through an arranged marriage, is also a highly respected agency official. However, as her family prioritizes work above all else, it wasn't long before Haru's marriage grew cold. Though she wants for nothing, she is isolated from her neighbors and withdrawn from society. Seeing her son grow into a young man gave Haru a purpose in life, but it was cut short by the kidnapping incident. Following the incident, Haru spent many days in a deep depression, breaking into sudden fits of shouting and wandering around in the middle of the night. Her cheerful, loving disposition faded away, and she took to making snide remarks at her husband, which only further soured the relationship. A few months ago, Haru's husband was transferred to another area for work and now rarely returns home. With Haru left to live in the large empty mansion alone, as a housekeeper who has been with the family for a long time comes in to take care for all the housework, Haru has nothing but time on her hands. That sucks. Yeah, she's definitely lonely. No, not dreams. Sounds like something I might want to hear about. My heart's still racing. This is it. My chance. At long last. A private investigator I hired. A friend told me about him. They said he's not very well known. He's good at what he does. When I first visited his office in Oda City and saw how he dressed, I could hardly believe he was a detective. But after talking to him for a while, I changed my mind. He says some strange things at times, but he seems like the reliable sort. Let me bring you up to speed. We were in the middle of a chat when you suddenly started spacing out, and the whole time you were grinning to yourself like you just won the lottery. Care to tell me what that was all about? Well, where to start? Interesting. Very interesting. So the haunting clapper's curse echo appeared out of nowhere. Told you how to perform the rite of resurrection and gave you the curse you'll need to do it. Have I got that right? That's right. So it's all real. Honestly, I still find it hard to believe. But I guess I have to now. I saw that curse stone appear in your hand myself. It looked like it popped clean out of thin air. With evidence that clear, there's no denying that there's some supernatural force at work. Okay, nothing's changed. An old hanging scroll. I don't know who painted it. It's been hanging here since before I was born. An arrangement of flowers. We bring in someone to do it. I don't even know what the flowers are called. Ooh, nice stereo. A stereo unit with separated speakers designed for home use. My husband insisted on buying one, even though he isn't one to listen to music often. Ooh, what's that? Well, I'll be damned. Is that what I think it is? Goodness, you made me jump. It's just a silly little sticker my son got for somewhere or other. He put it up just before... Well, you know what happened. I still can't bring myself to take it down. Let me take a closer look. Is that a bird? Oh, it's a rooster. That's pretty cool. Got that tail end like the guys who ride bikes around use. I knew it. It's the head honcho from way back in set number 1. This is a real collector's item. Excuse me? Don't tell me you've never heard of the mockingbirds. The what? They're the hottest new craze. Cute little birds dressed up like rough and tumble delinquents. I've never heard of them, but this certainly seems to matter to you. The best part is nobody knows who made them. They just started showing up around town, and soon enough they'd won everybody's hearts. The story goes that they're made by some anonymous artist who covertly leaves them behind in specific locations. No one knows when or where they'll show up next. They're basically an urban legend of sorts. To think, one would turn up here of all places. This is a good sign, I'm sure of it. Oh, well, that's nice. It's adorable. I like it. I would collect that too, if there were more of them. Maybe that'll be her thing here. Color television. Father bought one as soon as it hit the market. He likes to have the latest gadgets. Unlike the latest models, there's no remote control. We've had it for a long time. Back when it was new, we all gathered around it and marveled at it as a family. But with Father and my husband being away so often, it quickly fell into disuse. Ooh, a fax machine. Haven't seen those in forever. A fax machine. It can send images to other places along the telephone network. I don't really know how it works. Most houses don't even have one. I rarely find a use for it. I mean, yeah, well, what were you going to send as a housewife? The telephone. Just mention it as a private line. Alright, let's get back to talking to Richard. I don't think you quite understand. Huh? This isn't about evidence, and it isn't about belief. It's more than that. I know it's real. The moment the curse appeared, I knew everything before it even said a word. It was already there in my head, as clear as day. You just knew, huh? It was etched onto my soul along with the curse echoes resentful memories. So I can feel it, what it was like. Dying like they did, hundreds of years ago. Breathe, breath, and flame, writhing in pain as my flesh blackens, my blood boils. I can feel it. All the agony, all the rage. It fills me with bloodlust. I think I need to kill someone. Anyone will do, just as long as they're carrying fire. I see. That could be a problem. You think so? Yeah, he smokes. Unless that was a lie. From what I know of you, I was sure you see it as an opportunity. The stronger the desire to resurrect someone, the stronger the urge to kill. That's how it seems to me, anyway. Good grief. Talk about a spanner in the works. I say we take stock for a moment, remind ourselves where we've come from and where we're going. That might be a good idea. Okay, now what? Okay, nothing's changed in her thinking thoughts. That's what you hired me for, ma'am. To look into your son's kidnapping last year. To uncover the truth behind the abduction and murder of Suichi Shigima. Oh, yes, I remember. They never did find the one who did it. That's what I'm here about today, in fact. Kind of you to let me drop by so late, by the way. I've been turning over every last stone, and I've come up with a grand total of 1 lead. So you said. As far as the police are concerned, it's a cold case, but I've managed to make some headway. Remember, you were just about to tell me? You know, we still need to figure out exactly what you want me to do. Tell you what, why don't I tell you what I found and then we can make a decision. Alright. Okay, so I suppose there's not much point going over the kidnapping itself. No, I'm very familiar. Then I'll leave that for the files to cover and just confirm a few things about the case. The police traced the culprit's calls back to, let's see here, Northern Oyoko River, here in Sumida City. That's quite a wide area. That's right. In the end, they never managed to nail down exactly where the calls were coming from. But it was almost certainly the same location that Suichi was being held captive. Since Suichi's voice could be heard during the killer's calls, Northern Oyoko River is quite a distance from Suichi's normal school commute. Factor in that he was seen at school but went missing before he arrived at his house. It's likely that he was abducted by car on his route home. Maybe, but... Exactly. Suichi was a clever boy. He never would have gotten into a car with a stranger. That's right. I was very firm about that. I know he understood, too. I even saw him warning the other children. It's possible that they forced him into the car. The only issue there weren't any witnesses to the kidnapping. You can't bundle someone into a car with that many students around and not be noticed. But nobody came forward to say they saw anything suspicious. So, did they target him at some other time or somewhere away from his usual route? Both of those seem a little far-fetched. Which raises the question, how did the kidnapper pull it off? The police never managed to find an answer. In the end, they decided that the kidnapper must have gotten lucky. Well, why not turn the problem on its head? The Rite of Resurrection, huh? I read about that in an occult magazine the other day. Apparently some old book showed up recently with all the glory details. And they say that the rite can be found somewhere in Honjo. I remember the first time you told me about that. I felt like my prayers have been heard. Like I had hope, real hope for the first time. Ever since that awful day, I've wondered, what if I hadn't sent him to school? What if I just paid the ransom? Not a day goes by when I don't think that if I'd done something differently, Soichi would still be alive. You can't blame yourself, ma'am. It was the culprit's fault, not yours. Though I know that won't help any. Grief is funny like that. I'm guessing that's why you're after, right? Guess I didn't need to ask. It's written all over your face. I can tell how much he meant to you. But, and this is a big but, if this rite is the real deal, using it will mean killing someone and stealing their soul. Yeah, no, look, she's definitely prepared. Is that a problem? If it comes to that, I'm afraid I'll have to stop you. Oh, that's a shame. A shame, huh? That's all? I thought if I'm going to be competing with other Krish bears, then your detective skills might come in useful. You realize you're talking about ending someone's life, right? Don't you see an issue with that? I think any parent in my position would happily kill for a chance like this. That's so, is it? Dear, oh dear. What have I gotten myself into? Alright, is there something else we need to do? Maybe I need to read the files. Okay, well, I don't know what else needs to be done. Okay, am I missing something around here? The kidnapper managed to convince Shuichi to get in the car, but how? The only thing that makes sense to me is if there were somebody that he would have a reason to trust. A teacher, perhaps, or a relative, or somebody else that he knew. But all of the adults Shuichi knew had alibis. The police checked them all thoroughly. They did, huh? No one throws numbers at a problem like the cops. Well, what if it wasn't someone he knew, or rather, what if the culprit disguised themselves as a police officer? That would explain why he didn't find them suspicious. The Shigima family has close ties with the police after all. He would have had a reason to trust them. You might be right. But surely, that couldn't have... Well, there's a problem with that theory. You'd be surprised how much police officers stand out. That's sort of the point after all. They're meant to be a visible deterrent against crime. But here's another interesting little bit of trivia I happen to know. When you ask people to imagine someone suspicious, nobody pictures women or children. Even kids who've been warned about stranger danger often subconsciously expect the dangers to look like an adult man. Besides, Shuichi was the sort of boy who wanted to be a police officer when he grew up. He must have had a very strong sense of right and wrong. Right? Wait, surely you can't mean... Now you're getting it. If, say, a young woman approached Shuichi asking for help, what would he have done? If someone like that said they were lost and asked him for directions, would he have gotten into a car? He might have. My husband always told him that a man had a duty to watch out for women and children. You could certainly argue that kind of attitude is outdated nowadays. But if Shuichi believed it, then we might have something here. Then you think the culprit was a young woman? But it was a man's voice on the phone. He might have been an accomplice, or maybe she didn't even realize she was being used. If anything, that would explain why she hasn't come forward. She herself might not realize she had anything to do with the case. Oh, nope, not what I meant. So the question is, did anybody see Shuichi speaking with a young woman on the day of his disappearance? See, what I said about people's biases, that goes for witnesses too. And I figured that maybe, if I started asking new questions, I might get some new answers. So I spent my day asking around Shuichi's school route, seeing if anybody had seen something. And one man thought he had. Do you mean he saw it happen? Well, I can't say that for sure yet. It turned out he wanted something from me, so he asked if we could talk in private. Alright, this should do it. There's no one around. We can speak in confidence. Excuse me. What was your name again? Junochi. Got it. Well, Junochi, I'm all ears. Just so we're on the same page. You're a private detective investigating Shuichi Shigima's kidnapping. Do I have that right? Of course. What else do I look like? A cowboy. How should I know what a private detective looks like? Oh, forget it. Look, I'll tell you straight. My life is in danger. I need your help. You'll excuse me if that caught me a little off guard. Let me ask you straight. Who was trying to kill you? A student called Michio Shirashi. Interesting. A schoolgirl, eh? Sounds like you've been naughty. It's not like that. That girl, she's a murderer. I'm the only one who knows, but I saw what she did. Michio Shirashi. I saw her kidnap Shuichi Shigima. Come again? I saw her talk to him on the street and led him away. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he went missing. She murdered him, I'm sure of it. Or at least she's got something to do with it. That's what you're here for, isn't it? Then you can't let her get to me. If that's true, you've been sitting on some valuable information. Why didn't you tell anybody? Well, you see, if you can't explain that, I don't have any reason to believe you. I couldn't. She told me she'd kill me if I spoke a word. You're telling me a schoolgirl had you scared for your life. So you've been sitting on that all this time? And you think she's coming for you now that you spilled the beans? Yes, that's exactly it. I'm begging you, don't let her get to me. Arrest her, I'm telling you, she's a demon. Well, you seem to believe what you're saying, but it just doesn't add up. How could a schoolgirl have a fully grown man so terrifying? You don't know what she can do. She'll curse me. Curse you? I'm sorry, but you're losing here. You know, now that I think about it, we did run into that one schoolgirl jumping out of the school gate. Is that her? It's true, her house. Forget it. Why do I even bother? You seem dubious enough to believe me, but I should have known you'd never understand. Enough. I'll find someone else to help me. Hey! And that's about the long and short of it. You'd hardly believe it. At the time, I thought his mention of curses was just crazy talk. But I'm starting to see that there might have been more to it. Then, if we could just find that girl. Curse or no curse, if she was with Shuichi on the day of the kidnapping, then there's a good chance she knows something. On top of that, I did some digging on the man I spoke to. His full name is Kohei Junochi. He's a teacher at Komagata High School here in Sumida. Teacher? Then this schoolgirl is one of his students. I think that's very likely. Things are getting really interesting now. At last, we've got a lead. Hopefully, it'll be the breakthrough we're looking for. If it makes you uncomfortable, then you won't have to get any blood on your hands yourself. I don't need you to kill the other curse bearers. I only need you to find them. I won't be party to murder, ma'am, not even for a client. I'll pay you. How much can I give you to change your mind? Sorry, ma'am, but not everyone has a price. I've got my policies, and I stick to them. I see. I didn't realize you were so stubborn. Let me say, though, it's not like I don't get what you're going through. As long as you're not killing anyone with your own hands, maybe I can help you out. What do you have in mind? Well, how about stealing someone else's curse stone after they fill it with soul dregs? Huh? If that was all you were after, then I could lend you my services guilt-free. If the other curse bearers want to kill each other, then there's business. I'm not trying to be a hero here. I guess there's no guarantee a stolen cursed stone won't work, but we can worry about that later. Well then, I suppose we have a deal. Although, what if I stole a curse stone using my curse? Would you disapprove? That would void our contract, ma'am. Just warning you now. Aye. Well, I guess when he killed us those several times. Yeah, he might have just cut it off right there and then. Okay, so our thinking hasn't changed much. Before we go any further, why don't you tell me about that curse of yours? The haunting clappers, was it? That's one of the 7 mysteries of Honjo, if I remember correctly. That's right. The original story did happen somewhere near here, I think. I'm sure I remember hearing that. In that case, my money would be on all the curse bearers being somewhere in Honjo. Our first move should be to narrow them down. Some of them are bound to try and come for you first. We'll need to be ready. The curse make their bearers more willing to kill, so an attack could come from anywhere. That sounds sensible. And if I remember correctly, your haunting clappers can set people on fire, but only if they have a naked flame or a lighter on their person. Is that right? That's right. In olden times, wooden clappers were used to warn people of fire. I'm guessing it punishes those who don't heed the warning. It seems like a good curse to have. It's simple and straightforward enough to use. Although it's hard to say how it stacks up without knowing what else is on the table. You really think it's that good? The target can't do much to throw it off, and it has a nice long activation window. It's big that it works on lighters too. Just slip one into your target's pocket and say that the condition were already fulfilled before they even knew you were there. They wouldn't even know what hit them. Maybe. I won't have to actually use it. I could just tell someone I could, and they had to do what I said. Threats could work, although without any proof. It'll come down to how convincing you can be. If only you could use the curse, then back out at the last second. At the last second? What an interesting idea. I have a lighter right here. We could try it now. That's an interesting proposition. But maybe not. I'm not quite crazy enough to make myself a guinea pig. Oh, I see. You're an odd one, ma'am, if you don't mind me saying. And I don't think it's just the curse. You flatterer. Okay. I wonder exactly how much it changes them, the curse, because obviously, with the previous character we played, I forgot his name right now, I'm drawing a blank. He really was different. He seemed to be like a very nice, sweet man, and then all of a sudden the curse comes along, and boom, there. Suddenly he has no issue murdering people. But yet, I feel like he kind of turned into like a psychopath because he started manipulating people and, doesn't get his way. And then, of course, he killed that schoolgirl without regards. They barely had a conversation and boom, dead. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens now. As for what we do next, first of all, I think you should stay indoors. Try not to do anything spontaneous or outside of your normal routine. Right then. Have you decided what you want me working on? Alright, let's admit the kidnapping. The right thing. We can just take care of that ourselves. Finally. Finally, I have a lead. I need to know what happened to my son. Your wish is my command, ma'am. Focus all my efforts on looking into the kidnapping. Although, something just occurred to me. You can't investigate the matter at night, can you? At least until the sun rises. Did you search for the other curse bearers? Alright, I see how it is. Well, I'd be happy to help. Odds are good that the other curse bearers are also working by night. Anyone they kill under the cover of darkness won't be discovered until sunrise. I bet they'll be trying to do as much as they can before morning comes. So it's settled then. I'll look into the other curse bearers by night. And once the city wakes up, I can start asking questions. I'll investigate the kidnapping as well. I'll even try and find Miss Hirashi as part of the bargain. Thank you. That's more than enough. Now then. I should get to work. There's only so much time before sunrise. I'll call you if I find out anything new. You stay here and keep a lookout. Alright. There's no telling what kinds of curses you might find out on the streets tonight. Don't go outside if you can help it. And try to be ready for anything. I will. Well, if that's all, I should be going. Oh, ours is pretty straightforward. It's been almost an hour since Richard left. He promised he'd call me if anything happened. But he hasn't. So all I can do is wait and wait. Should I put a record on? No, it's too late for that. I'm not in the mood for music anyway. The flowers put me at ease. Just a little. That old hanging scroll. I've seen it too often to feel anything from it now. I'm waiting for Richard to contact me, but he hasn't. The fax machine. I rarely find a use for it. I don't know anybody else who owns one. I mean, why would they? Unless they're in, in a work office. What's this? A newspaper? Must have fallen off the chair. Let's read what it says. I only leave them in here for the guests. I hardly ever read them myself. I don't think I've taken the time to go over one in years, in fact. Well, not like I have anything better to do. Let's look at the culture articles. There might be something in there about the curses. Now that everyone has more spending money to go around, people are coming up with all kinds of new diversions. It seems like only yesterday that people were flocking to the arcades to shoot aliens. But now we have these enormous theme parks and gaming machines that plug straight into our televisions. Everyone's talking about superhero series, foreign films, and movies based on the latest bestseller. Back in my day, fusion rock and folk music was all the rage. But now it's all about city pop and idols. I find it hard to care about that sort of thing anymore. I wonder what year we're in. I feel like we're like around the 1980s, early 90s, possibly. There's nothing on at this hour. I see no point in turning it on. Little rooster. So, I clipped this out when I was going through the files, so I can get things started because there was quite a lot of reading. But you can actually collect them. That's for her storyline. We're actually going to be collecting these. Well, more like finding them, and that's how we collect them. My husband used to complain that it was too dark, but I rather like the gloom. I can see why. The ticking seems so loud. It just goes to show how quiet it is. Alright, I guess we got nothing else to do but to keep reading the newspaper. I know it's dangerous to go out. but I can't just sit here and let this opportunity pass by me. I have to look for her, for Michio Shirashi. But first, I need to find more soul dregs. Society articles, maybe? It looks like the city's biggest problem right now is pollution. I remember how the air and water used to be even more polluted. The river was covered in scum for all the sewage and industrial waste. I think so badly it'd make my eyes water. Eventually, people started getting sick, and it couldn't be ignored anymore. Fortunately, it's gotten better since then. Although the air around the industrial districts is still filthy with gas and smog. All sorts of articles about the current state of the economy. Not that the post-war boom has passed its peak. We're moving into the era of large corporations. It's about 220, 230 yen to the dollar. Manufacturing is on the rise and exports are healthy. The dollar's down from its height, and people are saying it could fall further. There's no denying how much the standard of living has improved in the past few years. It's common to own a car and television now, and supermarkets are better stocked than ever. Everyone attends high school now, even girls. Universal education policy, they call it. The country's gotten rich enough that every child can go to school. Education is the backbone of modern society. If you want to work for a good company, you have to get into a good university. With more people in the running than ever, the competition to get into those universities have gotten fierce though. The new generation is rebelling. Schoolyard violence and delinquency are on the rise. But my boy was too sensible to get mixed up in any of that. I don't want to read anymore. It'll only remind me of him. Anything that she's thinking? Okay, well I guess we're gonna keep reading the newspaper. Oh, I gotta read over and over? God damn. If there's one thing Hojo never wants for its horrific crimes. They found a police officer dead in a local park just the other day. A lot of my family are in the police. Hope it wasn't anybody I knew. I don't read the news anymore. Just not since last year. It brings back bad memories. Suicide at a local high school? Oh, I remember that. A high school girl jumped off a roof about a week ago. She was bullied, I think. Or maybe it was something about exam pressure? What? But... oh, this can't be right. Her name. Michio Shirashi from the Komagata High School. Oh, okay, so... and yet the other girl's trying to bring her back? Now I'm curious, why did she jump off the building? It can't be. No, don't put it down. Bring it back up. Although with everyone flocking to the city, land prices are skyrocketing. Nowadays, most people can only dream of home ownership. The city center's going to be nothing but apartments before long. I'm not exactly a businesswoman, so this all feels like another world to me. I hear the new big thing is some mascot line of delinquent birds, mockingbirds I think it's called. Was that what Richard was talking about? Yep. Trends seem to have such short shelf lives now, with how quickly the times are changing. I think I'm just too old to keep up anymore. It's young people who are leading the way, with their modern worldviews. My generation will only fall further behind. Yeah, that's kind of how things go. Although sometimes the old generation doesn't want to give up too easily and cause chaos for everyone else. I don't really watch much television. It feels as if all the information in the world gets passed through that little black box. My father stopped them from reporting on the kidnapping back when it happened. I was glad about that. Less fuss. Now the comedy boom is over, all the comedians are flocking to other genres. The occult seemed really popular in the moment. Look at all these paranormal specials. Oh yeah, even here, or like over in Europe and here in America, there was a big thing on occults. So we're most likely kind of stretched into the late 70s and 80s then. Okay, I guess we're done here. Well, I'm waiting for Richard to contact me, but he hasn't. I made sure the receiver's on the hook. It'll ring as soon as he calls. Oh, there it is. That must be him. Hello? Shigami residence? Oh, Shigima. I screwed that up. Look at him. He's so stoic. Richard called me out to meet him, and we came here to Komagata Bridge. Richard, there's something I need to tell you. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. We're on Komagata Bridge, over the Shimura River. There's a highway on one side and a freeway on the other, but they're both deserted this late at night. That's a big river. The Shimura River. The water's filthy and horrid, but at night when it's still, it looks almost peaceful. Can I ask you something, ma'am? Is the Shimura River what you Honjo folks picture when you think of home? I couldn't say. All I can tell you is that I can hardly stand the sight of it. Right, could have guessed. This was where they found him after he went missing. All alone, floating in that horrible water. All I can think now is how scared he must have been. How cold he must have been. What did he ever do to deserve something so awful? I've come here every day since then. And I prayed for the river to give him back. To give me back my son. Day after day after day. You know, in olden times, people believed rivers marked where a world met the next. Though the act of crossing flowing water had a huge amount of spiritual significance. Back when Ito was founded, the people of Chuo saw that the Shimura River the same way. They associated the far side of the river with the afterlife. That same place would later become Honjo. All their fear and revulsion accumulated there and took root. But then the Ryogoku Bridge sprang up after the Great Fire of Mirieki, and just like that, Honjo was part of the city too. And as it turned from farmland into a town, the people surrounded it with man-made rivers and crisscrossed it with canals and waterways. Weren't those to prevent flooding? That's what I was told. They were, but that's not all they were for. Their other purpose was to contain all the corruption that had built up on the far shore and stop it leaking through to our side of the Great Divide. Officially, they were a physical barrier, but unofficially, they were a spiritual one too. So, if I have this right, are you saying that Honjo is a place where the real world meets the afterlife? Exactly. That's why the rite of resurrection is here rather than anywhere else. I'm sure of it. And that's probably why the 7 mysteries and their curse have survived to the modern day. And I guess that would make this spot we're standing now, right over the water, the border between life and death. If there ever was a place where bringing back the dead might be possible, I reckon it's here. It's funny that you mentioned praying to the river. I might have done more than you think. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Just thinking out loud, ma'am. Well, it's a nice thought. Alright, well, let's continue talking with Richard. Okay, let's go first. There's something I need to tell you. What's up? Well, that girl, Michiyo Shirashi? The one who was with the one who was with Shuichi on the day of the kidnapping? That's her. Well, she's dead. She's what? The student who committed suicide last week. That was her. I heard something like that happen. Never got the name though. Talk about bad luck. We finally get a lead, only to find it's turned into a literal dead end. Unless her death was the whole reason Junoichi was shaking up. He said she was going to curse him. Was he talking about her taking revenge from beyond the grave? It seems like we're back where we started. Not necessarily. That teacher knows something, I'm sure of it. At the very least, I put my money on him having something to do with Miss Shirashi's death. That's why he's so scared of being cursed by her. See. And also, something tells me he knows more about your son's kidnapping. In any case, I think I've got a good idea of what he's hiding. Call it a hunch. A hunch? Well, more of a theory. Care to take a guess? Can't say for certain, but Mrs. Junoichi. Silence. Why would the option be there for him to silence himself? With murder. What if Mr. Junoichi sounds Michio Shirashi with murder? What do you think? I see. So you think Miss Shirashi's death might not have been suicide? That would certainly give him a good reason to think she held a grudge. But I'm not sure I buy it. That might be a little far-fetched. See, I'm sorry if I disappointed you. I'm not really cut out to play detective. Well, no point dwelling on speculation. The truth will be out in time. Right now, I think we need to have another chat with Mr. Junoichi. Please, go ahead. Alright then. I've been poking around places connected to the 7 mysteries looking for curse bearers. And I think I found a few candidates. First, a tall man I ran into the Kineshibora Park. I asked him for directions, trying to probe him a little, but he turned the question right back around on me. And he was out of there the second he figured I wasn't what he was looking for. I got the sense curses were nothing new to him. I'm about 40% sure he's a curse bearer. Then there's this middle-aged guy I saw on South Paragesu Street. There's no question about this one, he had one of the curse stones in his hand. He had a nervous air about him too. It was clear he was up to some shady business. Gathering soldier eggs, I bet. He'd make a good target. I wonder if he's the guy who has the shadow curse. Next up is a pair, a young man and woman I saw around Ryogoku Bridge. This time the man came up to me and asked me flat out if I was a curse bearer. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, and he backpedaled and left. Looks like they lurk around there often, looking for kindred spirits, would be my guess. Though it didn't seem like they were quite working as a pair. Gathering soldier eggs in a group might be a decent idea if you can make it work. But with things being how they are, it's gotta be hard to find folks one can trust. They've got brass though. I don't know what their deal is, but I'd like to find out. Last is 2 detectives I've seen sniffing around. The police are involved? Not necessarily. A body turned up in a local park a few days ago, so they might just be looking into that. Still, the park's got ties to one of the 7 mysteries. Might be it was a curse that did the guy in. And if they are sending in detectives from the head office, then something's gotta be up. How do you know where they're from? Let's just say that when you're in this business, there are some faces you get to know. Anyway, that's everyone who's caught my eye. You found all of them in so little time? I really did hire the best. It's all in the name, ma'am. Richard Kai, P.I. No, wait. Make that Richard Kai, investigator extraordinaire. Okay, this guy kind of lives in a little bit of a fantasy. Aye, an investigator extraordinaire. Is that why you can dress like that without drawing attention to yourself? You bet. An investigator extraordinaire can blend in like a chameleon in any outfit. Well, that aside, the middle-aged man and the young couple sound the most promising, alright? Whichever we pick, it's still too early to make a move. It seems like the curse bearers are less involved with each other than we thought. Plus, there's still others we don't know about. I say we hang fire and see how things play out. Once more parties start showing up, that'll get the pot nice and hot. And once it's boiling, our chance will come. What are we thinking right now? Standing around is the last thing I want to be doing right now. This is my only chance to bring back my son. I can't afford to fritter it away. Didn't you want to tell me something? I've already said everything I wanted to say. Oh, really? He's gazing down at the water. What does he see down there, I want? The afterlife? Oh, that's right. There's one more memory I have of this river. You mind if I tell you? Go ahead. It must have been about 20 years now, when I was still a schoolgirl. Back then, the Sumida River was much filthier than it is now. It was full of garbage and industrial discharge. It was scummy and slimy and it stank. You could look out over the water and see dead cats and dogs and pigeons just floating. One day, among all the filth and garbage, there was a piece of my missing classmate's hand. What? It was almost a miracle when you stop to think about it. What were the chances that someone would find a part of her that was still recognizable? And that although everything but the palm had rotted away in the water, the part that was left would have an identifiable scar, and that they could tell it had been a murder from the blade marks on the bone. Wait, are you talking about the Nijima murders? Oh, you have heard of it. I'm impressed. I assume you were up in elementary school at that time. I wasn't really aware of it then. I only heard about it after the fact. I had no idea the victim was a classmate of yours. To be honest, it was all a bit of a blur. A wave of chaos just parting around me. Something like that. They said the rest of her body must have sunk to the bottom of the river. They combed the riverbed, but they only ever found pieces. Everything else must have rotted and flowed out to sea. Afterwards, I heard that all the divers who had been looking for her fell ill. A sorry story for everyone involved, huh? It's funny. Everyone figures the river's filthy already, so one more piece of garbage won't hurt. But every little bit makes it worse. It's a vicious cycle. I know I wouldn't want to go rooting around down there myself. That's right. Which is why the riverbed is the last place anybody would go looking. Or so was the killer's thinking, I suppose. The times were changing quickly back then. Things were confusing. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry. Young people were moving to Tokyo in droves. Some even ran away from home to make it in the big city. And they made easy targets for bad people. A lot of them ended up disappearing without a trace. You see, back then, if you chopped the body up into tiny pieces and threw it in the river, it would rot quickly and discreetly and sink to the bottom, never to be seen again. Are you saying what I think you're saying? They arrested him shortly after. Fumichika Nijima, the man who killed my classmate and cut into pieces. He was so methodical about it, it couldn't have been his first crime. And people began to wonder how many other girls he'd murdered the same way. The police never found any evidence of other murders in the end. But the river knows the truth. How many corpses has it swallowed up over the years, I wonder? That same thought spread through everyone's mind, and they started to avoid this area. But really, the river has been ranked with corruption for decades now. Or at least, that's how it seems to me. Well, was that interesting? Well, I can see why you don't have any good memories of this river. With all that darkness lurking beneath the surface, there's no reason that you would. Still, if I may, ma'am, I'm surprised you know so much about the Nijima murders. But how could I not? After all, I was the one who found the hand. The police actually wrote me a thank you letter. They said it was only thanks to me that they managed to bring Nijima to justice. That was the only time my father ever said he was proud of me. I guess it just wasn't the killer's day. Sometimes I wonder if he resents me for that. I mean, what are the odds of her just finding the hand? I did mention it was one hand floating on top of the water, and the only thing visible about the hand, everything else had already rotted away, was just the palm. But for some reason, the girl had a marking on her hand that made her distinguishable from everyone else. So, again, what are the odds of all that happening? Alright, are we gonna be able to talk to him now? Is something wrong? Not really. It just struck me. It's been 20 years since the Nijima murders. So it has. Not to spook you or anything, but I thought you might be interested in knowing. Life in prison doesn't always mean life. There's precedent for first-time offenders being allowed out on parole after 20 years. Oh, crap. Only if they're found to show remorse and a desire to reform themselves, of course. That's right. I'm impressed you know so much. Still, it's hard for someone with a criminal record to reintegrate into society. I hear they've been trying to fix that recently, matching inmates with jobs and accommodations. Oh, really? They keep an eye on them, of course, and make them report in for regular checkups. But to avoid discrimination, they keep the inmates' records a secret from everyone but their employers. They even give particularly notorious criminals new identities so they won't be recognized in the workplace. Aye. The way you put it, it's like you're saying Fumicha Nijima could be out on parole right now, back in society under a new name with nobody any the wiser. It's possible. As it happens, a little birdie told me about a big name making parole a few months back. I don't know if it was Nijima, but our discussion just now did bring it to mind. See, how unsettling. Now that you mention it, I just remember something too. What was it? I was passing Komagata High School a little while ago when I saw someone. Janitor, I think. I could have sworn he reminded me of Fumichika Nijima. I'm sorry, everyone. That's a that's a bit of a that's difficult for me to try to pronounce. Oh? He looked a little different after 20 years. Much thinner than I remember too. I told myself I was just seeing things. But perhaps it was him after all. Did we kill him? It looked like he was smoking, and that's fire, so what next? The big question now is what the rest of the curse bears are up to. Luckily, the Sumida River is a good distance from many of the 7 mysteries. It's unlikely the other curse bears will come all the way here. I can finally have a moment to think. I see. Alright. You cannot currently progress any further. Once your situation has changed, select resume to try again. Press and suspend will change the story chart. So, what? We're stuck here? Hold on, let me check. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure. Are we kind of just like we're stopping here and we have to go click someone else's story to continue what's going on? That's interesting. So unlike with Oki, we are not allowed to go all the way through to the end. If that's my guess. I could be completely wrong about this, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here for this episode. And I will try to figure this out if I can continue from her storyline. If not, Then the next person I'm gonna be playing is Tetsuo Susumi, cause he seems interesting. Although I do want to play Yako, so she seems to be very, related to at least the girl that committed suicide. But we'll see. All right, guys. Until then, take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.